Hello, welcome to this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Wolf. You know me as a motivational speaker and a guy that is into books, into poetry. Today, I have a very special guest with me. His name is CL Harmon. He's a mindful life coach, someone whose quotes just not sound good. They carry weight, they carry pain, they carry meaning. And in this podcast, we will try to talk about his life journey, and the books that he's written. We'll just get to know him, about the work he's done. And so, without further ado, hello, sir,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, Mr. Wolf. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you. Let's just start from the very basics. Before the books, the wisdom and everything, who is CL Harmon and where did you come from, and what's your journey? How did you come into writing?
I come from a pretty simple, modest background, and it was just two really hardworking parents. Small town in the United States. That environment really kind of helped shape I am a lot of who I am as a person. And then as far as writing, I just always knew that I wanted to write. I just didn't know how to write and how to make a living with it, or how to really use it to help people. I didn't know because I was young. When I was about 19, I got clinically depressed. I became clinically depressed, and I had never been that way before. So it was just flipped my world upside down. I think this is sort of where my journey really kind of started to maybe be, I think, different. I had been very social anyway. I had a good time, and I'd stuff. But I was a good person. I didn't, but I went out and had a good time. But when I got depressed, and I think a lot of people do this, you tend to turn to alcohol or drugs to escape. And I didn't know, and that would have been very easy for me, but it just didn't seem right. I knew that was not going to end well. And so I didn't really know what choice I had. The only thing I knew was I leaned on my faith, which was a Christian-based faith. I wasn't a diehard, type of person. That was just kind of the basis that I had growing up. So when you have all those feelings and you can't understand and you can't escape, and I needed to escape. And so writing became the way I used that. It was just a tool for me to sort of help express myself, because I felt I had sort of isolated myself from everything I'd known. I was, and anyone who's been clinically depressed can understand that. It's different than manic. It's not highs and lows. It's basically, at least for me, it just consumed my life. And everything became that dark bubble I couldn't get out of. And as I started to write, initially it was just very dark kind of stuff because that's what I was feeling. But then after a while, I sort of began to understand that it was very therapeutic and there was a lot of meaning. I was always wanted to be a fiction writer, but this curveball that I didn't expect really sort of put me on a different trajectory. Anyway, so I started from that. I just continued that for a few years. And then as I started to lift out of that depression.
So do you remember what was the first piece of writing, or what did you write? The first thing that you've written? What was it all like?
It was interesting because I didn't just write down straight, this is how I feel. It felt natural to me to sort of write it in a poetic type way, and I liked being able to do that.
Poetry.
I liked being able to do that. So it just started from that, and then as I was saying, as I started to get out of that, I really started to be able to see what a tool it could be, because it had helped me so much, being able, but not necessarily to help them to write, but to take what I was going through and what I had been through, and to be able to take that and turn that into something that could help other people. And so that eventually culminated into what are now mindsets. And I worked, and I'd gotten married and had kids and so on. And so So writing was not something that was really serious for me. It was, it was inside, but again, I didn't know how to utilize it. And so I would just continue to write, and I would share stuff with friends, and they began to tell me like, hey, I think you have something here. There's something different, unique. And so with that, I began to write, and then eventually I worked my way into the newspaper industry as a writer and reporter, and then that kind of segued into being a freelance writer for different magazines. And so as I was doing this, I began putting those mindsets out there. And that's when I began to realize I was starting to get a lot of feedback. And I knew I had something at that point. And it never started out to be something like, oh, I want to make money from this. It was something that I could use to help people. Because I was putting it out there for free. I wasn't charging people. I would put it out in the newspapers. Like if I worked, whatever newspaper I was working for would run them for me, and different newspapers and stuff. And so I really felt like I was really starting to make a difference. And that's what became important to me, because I understood what that's like to feel like you want to give up, to feel like life doesn't have, like God has forsaken you, or however you want to look at that. I knew what that felt like without delving deeper down, without running into drug use or alcohol abuse or whatever. There was a way that you could you could heal yourself through, or help heal yourself through faith and through guidance. And so that kind of became my thing. I just started to realize I wanted to help people, and there's always someone that needs help. So it just started to work for me.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of mindset, I've read some of your work. In that you teach that mindset is like a discipline.
Yes.
Like, not in a way, it's not like motivation. So how does someone, build discipline when life just keeps knocking them down? How do you make that mindset to be disciplined?
And that's a great question. So I'll answer it like this. I think we end up in life, because we're so bombarded a lot of times in life with negativity, and things just seem to keep going wrong, and that becomes a norm for us. And so we begin to accept that, myself included. But what I found is that each and every one of us have the power to create positivity. And it doesn't have to be very much, because you build on that. When I decided I no longer wanted to be depressed, when I decided, hey, I don't want to live like this, okay, I stopped thinking about all of the things that helped facilitate that depression, and I started thinking the exact opposite. And I thought, okay, what would make me not be depressed? Okay, because laughing would make me, but I didn't feel like laughing. I didn't want to laugh. But I made myself watch things that were funny on television or see funny movies. I began to condition myself. Okay, and that takes effort. That takes a lot of effort to do that, because you're going against what you feel. Okay, but what I started to notice is that I was building a positivity that life wasn't giving me. Okay, and people give up because they assume that they can't build their own positivity. That's what they assume, right? And so they really kind of stop trying, and they just accept. Well, that's when you're into dangerous territory, because you don't know how to get out of that. And so I've spent my life figuring out how to get out of negative situations. And clinical depression is not easy to get out of. It's not. But I was able to do that because because I made a conscious decision to say, I don't want to be this anymore. And so whatever that is in your life, whatever it is that you feel like, you have to make a decision, and then you have to follow through with doing things. And sometimes those are very difficult things to do. It's as simple as if you don't feel like being around people because you're shy or whatever, then don't throw yourself in a crowd of people, because that's not going to help you. But reach out to one person. You got to take these little baby steps, and you reach out to one person and you say, hey, let's go do something, right? Okay, which is better than sitting at home. Okay, so now you've made one little step. Okay, and then when you get comfortable with that, well, it's that first step. And I think anybody in any kind of situation they're trying to get out of will tell you that first step is always the hardest. But I have found it with a lot of people that I help is that they don't want to take that first step, because they're so bombarded by the negativity in their life, they feel like they can't get out of it. Anyway, and so they kind of feel like taking that first step is useless. But actually, it's the most powerful thing you can do for yourself.
Coming to that, we live in a very, especially in the West, we live in a very fast-paced world.
Yes.
We've got deadlines, we've got work, we've got family.
Yes.
We have to be available everywhere. And we have to find that balance, that personal life and work-life balance in order to, I think, to remain healthy. So I want to ask you this question. How can a person know that they are not okay mentally or they're not doing well? How can you tell, can a person detect that on their own, or do they have to talk about it with someone else, or read a book or something?
So that's a lot of things. So let's start with first. This is what I tell people. Okay, everyone, no matter what they think. Okay, at that point in time, everyone in life wants the exact same thing, and that is peace. Now they don't know that a lot of times because you I want to be successful and I wanted this and I want to, but at the end of the day, really what you want peace. Okay, because when you have a sense of peace, then that gives you the strength and that gives you the fortitude to handle all the other things that are going to come through. Okay, now this is where we get in a problem because you mentioned a fast-paced society, right? Okay, if the most important thing to me every single day is peace. Okay, above all other things. Okay, and materialistically in this life is my peace. Now that means I made a conscious decision to make peace my priority. Now there's a lot wrapped up in that. So let me give you an example. When I get up in the morning, when I wake up in the morning, I don't jump up and I don't jump out of bed. I don't jump up and grab my phone or reach over and grab my phone. I don't do that. My very first thing is I pray. Okay, I pray the first thing in the morning. I have some one-on-one time between God and I. Okay, anyway, and I take that time because that initially sets the tone for my day. It is a peaceful conversation. Okay, then I get up. Okay, I don't look at my phone. I don't check my phone. I don't get up and do that. I get up and I kind of start my morning routine and, make coffee and I don't turn on the television or the radio because every single one of those things is a distraction. Instead, I enjoy the smell of the coffee. I enjoy the peace. I enjoy the silence. Okay. There's no chaos in the morning. I don't have any chaos to deal with because I know for the rest of the day, I'm going to have phone calls and emails and people talking to me. I'm going to have that going on all day long. Okay? And so I start my day off with a tone of peace. Okay? There's nothing happening in the world that's in the morning that's worth taking my peace. Okay? And so I don't allow it. But you know what? That's a choice that I make. At the end of the day, I choose what gives me peace at the end of the day. If it's sitting down and relaxing, if it's listening to some nice music, if it's having a coffee or some sort of beverage, and or even watching a TV show that I like or whatever, but that's my relaxing time. And I don't work. I don't take things and say because that's my time. I give myself that time because the world is going to take from you everything it can, and it's not going to stop. And as long as you don't take a stand against that, it'll take more and more. And that's your place of employment, that's your boss, that's your family, even though they love you, they're going to do that. And if you don't say, hey, I need to have my time in order to be peaceful, you're not going to be able to be the best you can be at work. You're not going to be able to be the best person you can be with your family. You're not, because you're going to be living in this stressful bubble that you can't get out of. Anyway, and I know because I did it for years. And I'm telling you, the best gift I ever gave myself was peace. And what I see more than anything else in the world is people don't do that. They don't take a minute for themselves. And anyway, and it's the most cathartic thing, and everybody's different. Like I was telling someone the other day, in fact, this is sort of interesting. I make my bed every morning, okay, before I leave the house. Not because the only reason I do that is because when I come home that evening, I can walk into my house or in my bedroom, and it gives me a sense of peace to know that my bed is made, and then I can climb into that bed. Now, that's a simple thing, but that's a gift that I give myself, okay? It takes a very few minutes in the morning to give myself something that's peaceful when I come home, okay? If you're living a life, and I'm not judging anybody, everybody's life's chaotic, but people live in chaos because they don't stop it. If you don't clean up after yourself, or you don't take care of your responsibilities and view, those problems are not going to go away. Okay, they're going to be something that you face later, and then that becomes this cycle. And so the most valuable lesson I think I tell people is about peace is give it to yourself, because no one else in the world will do that.